Welcome to Nexus Edge, the show that'll help you get an edge on your competition. My name is, of course, Turd Herder, and I'm your esteemed host of Nexus Edge. This week, we are doing a Week 6 recap for Season 7 of NGS, and we're recording it on an early Sunday afternoon, or late Sunday afternoon, and we're here dressed casually for the midsummer, mid-season Nexus Edge episode. So let's get right into it and go on over to the panelists. Today, I'm, of course, joined by our full cast of panelists. At the top, we have our regular Edge panelist, Ziltoid.
How's it going, everybody?
And we have Rio Kai, our other regular panelist for Edge. How are you doing, bud?
How's it going? Good.
Good. How did things go this week? How's everything going?
We got some good 2 dominations again, so we are edging our way to the top of the standings and looking to make a good playoff run, I think. So
Edging the way? Yeah. Good to hear it. I'm sure Ziltoid had some casts going on. I think I saw a couple of them, so. All right, before we forget, let's get into it with our guest this week. We have the unflappable and unstoppable Juggerobb.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here. Why don't you briefly introduce yourself to those who may not know who you are?
I am Juggerobb, the captain of Full Meta Jacket. We are in Div D East, and I think that this is our second season in NGS, and I think we've been playing together for about 2 years or so.
Oh, wow.
I've only been playing the game since the 2.0 version of Heroes of the Storm. I came over with Overwatch when they tried to get you to play via Overwatch characters and whatnot. So, and I have since abandoned that game because it drastically changed from what it was. But
very nice, and of course, Heroes of the Storm seems like is a game of choice, or at least something you enjoy.
Definitely. It's the only game I play now. I'm kind of like a one game type of guy, I'm very committed. And so I just stick to Heroes of the Storm primarily.
Very nice. What is your role on the team?
Right now I am DPS. I'm the lesser of the DPS players on the team, but DPS nonetheless.
Very nice. Do you have a favorite hero to play as DPS or whatever?
My favorite hero to play actually is Blaze. Unfortunately,
nice.
Yeah. For a while, I was a little bit off laning, and he was my favorite. But he doesn't really stand up to anybody. But I'm happy to be on DPS anyway.
Very nice. How is Full Meta Jacket doing this season so far?
So far, so good. No complaints. I mean, obviously, we'd like to be completely undefeated, but right now we haven't dropped a series, which is good. But a lot of parity. A lot of teams at the top, and even teams at the towards the bottom of the rankings we've lost to. So a lot of competition, which is always good.
Very nice. All right, before we move on to our first segment of the week, just giving a quick shout out to the NGS Patreon. That's of course at patreon.com/Heroes Nexus Gaming Series, and there you'll find all of the tier lists for all of your NGS Patreon needs. You can get cool swag. You can get player cards. I have mine. I have it in my little thingy that I can attach to my other little thingy. Just like this. Fabulous. So, Juggerobb, are you a Patreon?
Oh, no. I knew you were going to call me out on it.
Oh, no. No, you don't. No one has to be a Patreon. Obviously, it's more or less donations. So, if you or anyone else that's watching feel compelled, please consider helping out NGS and helping them keep the lights on. So without further ado, though, let's get right into it. To the NGS Power Rankings. This is, of course, it's the only official way to judge divisions. Everyone else is wrong. So let's get into it. Obviously, this differs a little bit from the official standings. So if you want to know officially how teams are doing, you would be best suited to check that out. But, of course, we have our reasoning. And without anything else, let's start it off with Ryokai in division, or I guess heroic division.
All right. So, unfortunately, I would say the main news in heroic this week was that BBW has withdrawn from the rest of the season, so
Rest in peace.
yep, F in the chat for them. Other than that, honestly, not really much to say in Heroic. A couple games happened. Pretty much the teams that I had placed above won, and the teams that were placed below lost in those matchups over the past week. So pat myself on the back. I think I did a pretty good job ranking those. I did switch Probe 1 and Amazing because Probe 1 was able to take a game off Keanu Reeves, and Amazing, they only took a game off Archon, who I had ranked a little bit lower, so I just thought, I'll switch those two. But other than that, pretty much the teams are moving up one because BBW is dropping down, but other than that, basically no change. So
Very nice. Did they just not get a lot of games played, or is it just?
there was a few, but not too many. Yeah. Part of that was, like I said, BBW dropping out, so you lost that game of the week, and then some teams have a bye or whatever else. So.
Very nice. Ziltoid, what do you? Go ahead. Sorry.
Call out Heroic for playing more flex games, though. That is always
there you go.
Unspoken.
Yeah, and it just looks like everything shifted basically up one because BBW dropped out. So, Ziltoid, what do you think of the Ryokai's Heroic rankings? Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, no, I think it's exactly what it should be.
Perfect. Well, that was probably the quickest power rankings we've ever had. So let's move right on, I guess. Going on over into Division A. Ryokai again. Why don't you break it down for us? Looks like Gilly Shark is still on top.
We ran a little long, so we're speedrunning this week.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, Div A. So yeah, Gilly Shark still at the top. Pretty much still undefeated in matches. They're going to be our main rival, but we're coming for them. That's our Week 9 matchup, so we're ready for them. They're our white whale, or shark in this case. At the second place, I'm moving my team up, Rewind, to number 2. And dropping Sky5 down. Sky5 took two bad losses, I would say. Well, not bad losses, but losses this week in their matches. They went 1-2 versus Regen Retro and 0-2 versus Wholesome Halfwits. So we, meanwhile, had a 2-0 domination over both Wholesome Halfwits and Into Deep. So just shuffling those two around there. As for the other spots below them, I actually think Line Speed could maybe have an argument for being third here, but I did place them fourth for now just to kind of give... Sky5 has the lead on points. Line Speed still doesn't have a whole ton of games played compared to the rest of the division, so they're a little bit of an uncertainty still. So I was kind of, saying, okay, Sky5 has demonstrated and proved in their games or whatever that they can be at the top there, whereas Lion Speed is a little bit of a question mark still. But they took a 2-0 over Team Training Wheels, or a 2-1 over Team Training Wheels, I should say. So Team Training Wheels is going to drop down a few spots. At 5th, I have Regen Retro. They took a 2-1 over Sky5 and a 0-2 loss against Gilly Shark, which again, kind of expected. But they're doing solidly. I think they started off a little bit shaky, and now they've really turned their season around in the past few weeks and gotten some good wins. So they're moving up. Regen Ghost is unfortunately dropping down. They took an 0-2 loss to lose Screws. They seem to be a very inconsistent team. They're able to take games and matches off the top teams, but they're also losing to some of the lower ranked teams. So on any given day, they might be top of the division, and then get them on a bad day or something, and they might be towards the bottom. So I think if they can pull their consistency together, they might be a strong contender in playoffs. But at the moment, hard to place too much stock in them. At 7th, I have Wholesome Halfwits. So they took a 2-0 domination over Sky5, which is pretty good. They did take the 0-2 domination loss against Rewind, but I think moving them up slightly, taking a game off the top team is pretty solid. At 8th, I have Team Training Wheels. Like I said, they took the 1-2 loss versus Line Speed, and they just dropped down slightly. 9th, I have Wiped Them again. They didn't play this week. Kind of hard to move them from there. Same with Team Happy Cloud at 11th. Also didn't have a match this week. Feudless Screws at 10th. They have a 2-0 over Into Deep and Regen Ghost this past week. I'm kind of maybe not giving them as much credit as they could deserve for the Regen Ghost victory there, and could possibly bump them up a little bit more. But it's hard to say with how the rest of their season has gone, and whether that's Regen Ghost just being inconsistent or whatever. And then at 12th, I have Into Deep. Like I said, they took the 0-2 loss versus both Rewind and Fearless Screws. So that's what Div A looks like for me.
Now I have a quick question. So Team Training Wheels, so they lost to Lion Speed, I guess. So Lion Speed was previously ranked 6th, and they were previously ranked 5th. So they actually got -3 for going 1 and 2 versus Lion Speed. Is that kind of how that shook out, or?
It's partly Regen Retro also moving up, and Toast
okay.
Halfwits as well, because pretty much all 3 of those teams took a victory in the past week in their matchups versus like another top 3 team. So
Right.
It was more so those other teams moving up. So yeah, that drop does look a little bit
Yeah, it just
more
looks
extreme
pretty
than
stark,
you would think, but yeah, unfortunately, if one team has to move up, some other team has to drop down. So that's the way.
It's the nature of the power rankings. Ziltoid, what do you think about Division A? Did your list look like this? Does it look a little bit different than this?
It's a tight division. I think Gilly Shirk Rewind being at the top is not really a surprise to anyone. I don't think that's going to change up. Sky 5 losing this week was definitely an interesting move. Wholesome Halfwits, despite having a bit of a rocky up and down season, definitely proves that they can play against some of the higher teams. But I also think that Sky 5 still hasn't really run into a lot of the big raid bosses yet. So, for them, they still have quite a few matches to play that should be tough ones. And, we could see a bit of shakeup in standings from them actually dropping a bit low. Region Ghost dropping a few loose screws was, unexpected in a sense, at least as far as on paper it goes. And actually, and that's a bad loss because few loose screws doesn't have doesn't have a lot of room to solidify a playoff spot. And so Ghost dropping matches to them is kind of rough. Those are kind of just points that you're going to want back. In placements later on. Regen Retro has definitely had a good run, and given the fact that they still have quite a few matches left to play, if they continue the upswing, they could definitely start kind of creeping into the 3rd, 4th, or 5th positions in the playoffs. And I agree with Lionspeed. They've only played 6, or at least have only 6 reported matches so far. And given the fact that they're at 5 losses, if they win another 2 to 3 sets, they could end up taking Sky 5's spot, which is exactly what Rio was saying. So I think that these power rankings are a good reflection of what we should be expecting as far as trends. This does seem to be the teams that are trending up and trending down. Sky 5 and Regen Ghost have a lot to lose, whereas teams like Lionspeed, Retro, and Wholesome Halfwits have a lot to gain from these victories. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out in the next coming weeks. But yeah, I've got very little problems with this power rankings. I think it gives a really good snapshot into what to expect going forward in Division A.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, without much more, let's move on to Division B East. Unless Juggerobb, do you have anything to add on Division A?
Yeah, might as well.
Can't say that I do.
Perfect. Moving right along on over to Division B East. Ziltoid, why don't you drop it down for us?
So not a whole lot of movement. There's some juggling at the top. So the big one would be Minion Miners. They moved up. They took out MHS under domination, have been and beaten both HOTUS and RKB in the past. So the fact that they've taken out, kind of some of their top competition, and then are continuing to get dominations in a lot of places, are putting them in a nice position to take that number 1 seed. But they do have a couple, quite a few remaining matches. The Real Mosh Pit and WCM, which they should be favored into those matchups. But they also have Beast Coast and Jailbait. So those are going to be the 2 big matches that are going to determine whether Minion Miners can stay at the top or if they'll move back down kind of before the end of the season. HOTUS in the number 2 spot has also moved up from last week. They took out Beast Coast in 2-0 domination pretty convincingly, and they beat pretty much every other single team in the top except for Minion Miners, who they lost 2-1-2. So the remaining matches are WCM, Winston Churchill Manatees, Murky Hit SWAT, and Jailbait. And Jailbait's probably the only one of those 3 that I feel like actually might threaten HOTUS' position. So they're looking to claim one of those top 2 spots pretty convincingly this season, it's looking like. Beast Coast moved down 1 slot from the number 2 spot to the number 3 slot. They have been mostly undefeated until they ran into Heroes of the United States, where they did lose 2-0. And the remaining schedule for them isn't too difficult, I'd say. They have Buff Chen, they have Trump, and they have Minion Miners. But given the fact that Minion Miners is is the only team so far to beaten Heroes of the United States, that is probably going to be their big make or break matchup. So if Beast Coast can take the victory over Minion Miners, we might have another team again really contesting for that number 1 spot. The point totals between those 3 teams in particular could get extremely difficult to calculate,
right?
Depending on how these matchups kind of work out.
Jailbait
dropped down from number 1 to number 4, so having the matches before that, they had a great run coming into this last week, but then they lost to Beast Coast, and they still that does drop them down significantly. And the big reason I think that they might be falling from grace here is they still have a really rough end of the schedule with both Minion Miners and Heroes in the United States to beat to secure themselves a top position. So, and I don't know if Jailbait is really favored in either one of those matchups. They also have Regen Phoenix, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but that could be a upset loss too as well if they don't play that matchup. Considering that Regen Phoenix, despite not going to be having the best chance of moving into the top because they have to play at the end, still have a chance to take maps off of these top contending teams and drop them in the standings. Reborn Knights Black's going to stay at number 5. They've had some hard losses, including 1-2 to HOTUS, and pretty much all the top teams with the exception of Jailbait, who they did beat 2-0. But the remaining schedule is Trump, Rush B, Buff Chen, and Murky's Hit Squad, which I think they should all be more or less favored into those matchups, with the exception of probably Murky Hit Squad. So Reborn Knights Black definitely have taken some hard losses against these top 4 teams, aside from Jailbait. But given the remainder of their schedule, they probably can maintain their number 5 spot pretty handily throughout the following weeks. The only big mover after that in B East is Trump. Real Ultimate Mosh Pick has picked up 3 big dominations versus some of the lower half teams. And that's going to help set them up positionally and give them a way into the playoffs, which is good, which is what we want to see from them. But the problem is all of their remaining matches are between the top half teams. So if they don't manage a couple upsets in the next coming weeks, they may have the playoffs slip through their fingers, since they have to play Minion Miners, Beast Coast, and Reborn Knights Black.
That's a schedule.
That's a schedule, absolutely. Murky's Hit Squad, they've had some rough hits, but they've been and they've been up and down all season. They're my big dark horse. They're the ones that I'm not entirely certain where they're going to end at the end of the season, as they've taken some interesting victories, but they've also taken some just horrendous losses, and it's just kind of a roller coaster on where they're going to be. And the last 3 matches of them for the season is going to be Heroes of the United States, Reborn Knights Black, and Rush B, which I don't think they're favored into HOTUS or RKB, but they should be favored into Rush B. So, if they can pick up an upset victory over RKB, I think they'll solidify themselves a playoff spot. And of course, they still have to win their match versus Rush B. Buff Gen is moving down. They're the only other big mover downward motion. They lost to Regen Phoenix and Jailbait in the last 2 matches they played in 2-0 dominations. And the remaining schedule is not looking easy for them either. They have to beat Beast Coast. They have to beat Reborn Knights Black. And they still have to play Rush B as well, which I think is a complete up in the air on whether they win or lose that matchup. The only one that I think that they have a chance to secure points pretty certainly is against Winston Churchill Manatees. So Buff Chen kind of losing it here at the end of the season. I'm not entirely certain that they're going to hold on to that playoff spot. Rush B haven't been able to post any real wins since RGP. And for some reason, I can't find the results for Trump versus Rush B. It says the match was supposed to have been played, but I can't find any results anywhere. They rather haven't been posted or it was rescheduled or something like that. So ignoring that matchup between those two, they still have to play. Most of the teams that they have to play is actually kind of on the lower half of the standing. So Rush B doesn't really have to show up too hard against like top teams, but they do need to make some upsets happen versus things like Reborn Knights Black and Murky's Hit Squad, which I think are still going to be tough victories there. Regen Phoenix has taken the number 10 spot. They did pick up a couple dominations against Buff Chan and Winston Churchill Manatees, which is great, but they only have 2 matches left, and both matches are against Beast Coast and Jailbait. Which are both teams that they're definitely underdogs into. So if they can make them happen, if they can make those victories happen, especially dominations, Regen Phoenix could potentially take a playoff spot. But it's definitely a Hail Mary pass for that to happen. And then Winston Churchill Manatees just haven't won anything since ALR and DH dropped. So pretty much says it all. That's That's B East for you.
Alrighty. Yeah, and I know I'm surprised to see this Jailbait dropping 3 points. I know that Minion Miners and Jailbait, at least in the chat, the division chat, kind of go back and forth at each other. I think they both see themselves as top 2 teams, 1-2 kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think they play this week. Don't quote me on that. Maybe next week. I don't know. I think they play soon, so that's kind of interesting to see Jailbait drop 3 here. But I mean, I think you definitely backed it up. Definitely had some rough losses. So, Ryokai, what do you think?
I pretty much agree with the bottom half almost entirely. I don't think there's too much to say there. I think, and this is kind of emphasized by the Jailbait, shuffling down 3 spots even here, is the top 4 is super close. I would probably put it like HOTUS, Beast Coast, and then Jailbait Minion Miners, or Minion Miners and Jailbait might shuffle. I don't know. I would almost have trouble deciding even between them. But like you said, a lot of them also still have 1 or 2 matches to play against each other still in these last couple weeks here. So that should kind of finally settle things one way or the other. So
top 3, just to keep in mind, all 3 of those teams have only dropped 1 map. Jailbait has dropped 2, which is the reason why they're in the number 4 spot. Or matches, so we'll have to see how things edge out for the rest of the season. But that's kind of the reason why they went down 3, because they're actually behind in match score.
Sounds good to me. All right, Zoltan, are you ready for Division B West then?
Yep, of course.
Looks like we got a little bit of a change here at the top. B West is actually one of the ones this week that I don't think has had huge move, a lot of moves at the top 6. There really hasn't been a lot of rotation there. Unemployed Gaming 1-2 over RKR, but they did lose 1-2 Double Keg. So finally, since their first matchup against Logical Decision at the beginning of the season, this is their first actual loss since then. However, the other top team with them, who just kind of swapped out with them, did lose to Spooky Ghosts in a 2-0 domination, and they really kind of have a tough end of the season, much like UG does too as well, where they have to take on teams like they have to play Reborn Knights White as well as Unemployed Gaming too as well. So Unemployed Gaming has to take on Uncomfortably Numb and Soak Every Lane, as well as our Roll One Esports. And those are going to be 2 big matches. I think that those are both, as we can see, kind of in my standings here. Those are both top 3 teams. So who's going to come out on top is really going to come down to who wins here in the top end of the standings. Soak Every Lane moved down, like I said, because they lost to Spooky Ghosts. They have 4 remaining matches, and they have to play on Reborn Knights White as well as Unemployed Gaming. And they also need to guarantee their victories against RKR and Who Knows Gaming
But considering they lost 2-0 to Spooky Ghost, maybe they're showing a little bit of weakness at some certain points in their play style that can be exploited. And so that moved them down to number 2 this week anyways. Uncomfortably Numb, they just haven't played enough matches yet. They took a win over RJB, but they still haven't really played any of the top games or teams yet. Full on, except for maybe Soak Every Lane, which they did take a 2-1 victory over. So it's hard to really say where they belong, but considering their past victories, they are still sitting kind of in my number 3 spot. And nothing's really happened to really force them to change yet. Reborn Knights White lost to Who Knows Gaming 1-2, but did take a 2-0 victory over Double Kigs. So the remaining schedule is Reborn Knights Red, Uncomfortably Numb, and Soak Every Lane, though. So those are all going to be tough matches for them to kind of come out with a victory over. And they're going to have to close out with wins here at the end of the season if they want to maintain their spot. Logical Decision coming at number 5. We haven't, since Wono's been gone, we've been kind of not wanting to schedule a whole lot of our stuff yet. So we've been kind of avoiding it. We do have a match tonight versus Uncomfortably Numb. And this is going to be kind of the signature match that'll kind of dictate the rest of the season for us, I think. As after Uncomfortably Numb, we have Devil Keg, Spooky Ghosts, and RGB. And these could all potentially be wins for us, but they could also be potentially losses for us. It's going to be a tough one. So we'll have to see if we can make any movement up in the standings and avoid moving down in the standings if we can pull up some victories here in the next couple weeks. Who Knows Gaming moving up. They've had 3 solid victories in the last 3 matches against strong teams like Devil Kegs and Reborn Knights White. Remaining schedule for them is looking good too, as the last remaining teams are things like Arrogant Nephilim, RKR, I think, and Roll1 Esports, something like that. So I didn't write it down for some reason. So they actually are sitting in a nice spot where they can probably actually maintain a good playoff position, picking up some of the victories they have so far near the end of the season here. Spooky Ghost is my big move for sure. Number 3, they picked up 2 big victories over Soak Every Lane and Reborn Knights Red to move them up into playoff contention. Remaining schedule is tough, though, as they basically have all of the top teams to take on in the coming weeks, including a Logical Decision. I think they have to take on Unemployed Gaming, or no, it's either Unemployed Gaming or Uncomfortably Numb. They still have to play Soak Every Lane, no, they don't. I'm sorry, Reborn Knights White. So there's lots of big teams that they have to take on near the end of the season. I think Devil Kegs is another one that they have to play on. So that's a tough schedule to go into. But considering they've been able to pick up some big victories so far, they've got a chance. Devil Kegs did achieve a big victory versus Unemployed Gaming, which is huge for them. They probably would move if Spooky Ghost hadn't kind of jumped so high up in the standings. They do have a pretty reasonable schedule at the end of the season, though, so they can probably close out the last remaining victories and nail in that playoff spot, though. So Devil Kick's looking pretty good, but not enough to really. They haven't made any major moves yet in the standings, but given in the next couple of weeks, I do expect them to start climbing up this list here. Roll1 Esports, they've stabilized. They picked up 2 victories over Arrogant Nephilim and over our Reborn Knights Red. The remaining matchups for versus Spooky Ghosts and Unemployed Gaming, though, which are must wins if they want Snowball's chance to get into the playoffs. Reborn Knights Red is moving down. They lost 3 matches, 0-2 recently. Remaining matches are all versus strong, showing teams Who Knows Gaming, Uncomfortably Numb, Reborn Knights White, and Soak Every Lane. So they don't have the easiest remaining schedule.
Yeah.
And Arrogant Nephilim, they haven't been able to find wins, and the rest of the season isn't looking too much easier, as they also have Uncomfortably Numb, Double Kegs, and Who Knows Gaming left. And then Regen Blue, ever since the roster changes, has still been struggling to make anything happen too as well, and is falling further behind in points than even Arrogant Nephilim.
Very interesting. What were the roster changes on Regen Blue? I wasn't familiar.
They dropped Fox left and joined Beast Coast.
Okay.
They picked up August Sun.
I got you. Okay. Great. Then I mean, it's hard to argue when you back up your your rankings so well like that. But Ryokai, do you want to give it a try anyways?
I would say
changes?
the only change I would make is swapping Deviled Cakes and Spooky Ghosts. Like you said,
I definitely
Thought
toyed
about it.
with that whole idea
Yeah.
because the win versus UG is pretty big.
right. And like you said, Deviled Cakes is going to have an easier schedule, so maybe that's kind of like a preemptive ranking where that's probably where they'll end up by the end of the season. Maybe not at this very moment, but that's really the only change. I think, like you said, other than that, pretty much everything is reasonably set to roughly where it's going to end up. I think so.
All right. Well, without anything further, I think we should move on into Division C East. This is, of course, the division that the Nexus Cats play in and I play in. Starting at the top here, we actually had a lot of it is some changes. Wood League kind of pole vaulting their way up to the first place. They had a 2-0 domination over Bugin Squad, who I previously had as a number 1 ranked team. And I just think that, it could be a knee-jerk reaction here, just overcorrecting, but
I don't think they're a strong team, man. I don't think that's
Yeah.
at all.
And I feel really bad because I know, I think it was like week 2 or week 3 when I started doing power rankings for Division C. And I had them criminally underranked. So they've just been moving up and up and up and up. And I think they're finally finding their spot towards the top here. So I did have Dominator. He's the analyst on the back end who helps out with Division C. He pulled some stats for me, and he says that there appears to be a very clear linear trend between Mercenary Camp uptime and the current standings and power rankings. It sounds like utilizing the camps is really an important and integral part of this. The top teams have an average uptime, the current first place team, Wood League, has the highest uptime of camps at 29.4% of their match, which is 5 points higher than the Division C East average of 23%. So Dominator's takeaway from that is more camps, more uptime, more wins. I think that generally checks out.
Yeah, that trend. I'm just sort of going off the eye check here or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that trend holds for Divs B, A, and Heroic as well, pretty much. So
I think it also holds up in Div D as well.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's they're edge on your competition. Keep your camps up. So, anyways, so because Wood League pole vaults their way into the number 1 spot, Bugin Squad and Winky Face are going to go down. I mean, obviously, Bugin Squad getting dominated, that makes sense. Winky Face, I think they're just a casualty of Wood League going to number 1. Lubu, I kept right there. There's arguments that they could have moved a little bit. They dominated Do It Right, which is a lower ranked team, and they had a 2-1 win over Bancho, which another low ranked team. But interestingly, Lubu has the most XP percentage soaked per game at 39%. The other top teams in Division C East are only slightly above the division average of 27.7. So this is another, stat to keep you going there. Soak your lanes and keep your camps up, and you'll win games. Durton's Couch, they actually took a map off of Wood League. And this is, sometimes I feel like I'm being petty when I do stuff like this, but they took a map off a tough team, so that's going to put them up a game, I think, or put them up a ranking here. I don't think they had much else. Obviously they got a loss. Die for Vision took a whole win off of Calculated Throw. Calculated Throw actually being the big loser here for that. They did win versus the Nexus Cats, but they lost a map. So again, maybe it's me just being petty, but and it probably comes across as super petty because they beat us. But I'm talking in general. They lost a map to Nexus Cats. They lost to Die for Vision. I think that kind of shows where they're at. I do think I overvalued them earlier in the season. I think we're kind of seeing some fluctuation there, but we'll see what happens with Calculated Throw. Do It Right. I don't think they played a match this week. So they're going to go ahead and stay right there. Save the Murloc and Ban Show are playing later tonight. We're recording, like I said earlier, Sunday. So they're playing Sunday evening. Region Anomaly also hasn't played any games. Their match was scheduled to the end of the month. And then here at the bottom, we have the Nexus Cats going all the way down. I think we started out here, and now we're right back where we started. We had tough losses versus Bancho and Calculated Throw this week. Particularly Bancho. I have them ranked 11th. I think the standings show that they're 10th out of 12. And they played very, very tough. It was remarkably tough game. So they obviously go up a point, but I couldn't give them too much more than that. So that's Division C East. What do you guys think? Ziltoid, any thoughts?
Wood League has been putting in the work. The only team that's managed to beat them this season is Winky Face. And Winky Face hasn't been that consistent against other teams, so I think the current standings at the top makes the most sense. Lubu climbed and is stabilized, so sitting in that top 4 position, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon near the end of the season here. I think they've got a decent schedule going forward, and they've got a good set of players that are playing quite solid. Dirtan's Couch, they always seem to claw for games. In every matchup that they do, they just don't seem to be able to close it out versus kind of the mid to high tier teams. Die for Vision definitely has been more consistent than Calculated Throw, which is a bit of a surprise for me. The Calculated Throw that seemed to start off the season really strong, but has really kind of dropped as it's gone along. But then the rest of it looks pretty much the same to me. Region Anomaly is still a bit untested, as they haven't played as many matches as a lot of the other teams near the bottom of the standings, but they did pick up a victory recently, so that should help.
I was going to say on Calculated Throw, and I don't know if this is I'm not a captain, so I don't really reach out or talk to many other captains, generally speaking, but Calculated Throw, they had some sub issues this week. I don't know if that's a systemic thing, if that's been something that's happening to them all season, and maybe that's why we're seeing kind of what you're kind of articulating as inconsistent winning. If they're having a lot of subs, that would kind of explain that. But I'm just speculating at this point. I don't have any insight or any analysis there. Juggerobb, you're familiar with some of these teams. What do you think?
I actually I'm looking at the standings right now. I'm surprised that Save the Murloc hasn't been able to get a few more wins. Last season they were the number 1 seed. I think they were the number 1 seed, and that was even by like week 2, the second to last week. I definitely think though where they stand, I mean they could upset whoever they're playing coming up, whenever their games are for the next couple of weeks. As the other team that we didn't play against them, but they were in the Div D last season was Boogan Squad, and I mean they just ran roughshod through all of Div D from what I watched in the finals as well. So no surprise that they're up as high as they are. And Nexus Cats, I feel like you're being a little bit harsh on yourself. I mean you're at number 9. Maybe you're just trying to be a little bit honest, but I
don't know, man. We got 8 matches played out of Bancho, Save the Murloc, and Regen Anomaly. They all have 6 or 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that now.
I mean,
yeah, okay.
The only reason we're up there is I think because we have more maps played, so we have more chances to get single map wins. I don't know.
I see that now.
I appreciate the you trying to give us a compliment, but
I'm just trying to.
I think we're definitely number 12 here. Ryokai, any quick thoughts before we move on to Division C West?
As usual, I don't really have too much expertise here on Div C and D, so.
There we go. Alrighty then, moving right along to C West. Some things happening, some things not happening over here. Lurk Patrol taking over the 1 seed. I even think I said this last week that Lurk Patrol easily could have been number 1 then. They're just winning. That'll do it. I think let me see the current standings. I think actually they're not. I think they're second. Yeah, they're second in the current standings with 19 points at 7 matches played versus Tickle Me Tassadar, who has 20 points at 8 matches played. So they probably have the number 1 spot with 1 game less played. Tickle Me Tassadar moving up. They dominated Paraloot this last week. I mean, arguably maybe I could have moved them up another 1 or 2, but Interesting here, Tickle Me Tastar and Lurk Patrol, this is from Dominator again, have a firm hold on the first and second place in this spot. One reason these two powerhouses have been so successful is by keeping unnecessary deaths to a minimum. What? I can't read it. It keeps going. Both teams spend about 3.5% of the game dead. The coastal average is 6.9%. So almost 3% of the game, they have less deaths. So these stats seem pretty intuitive. Die less, have more camps, soak more XP. But when you actually put pencil to paper here and you see these teams doing kind of doing the numbers, it makes more sense why they're winning, I think. These same two teams, this is again from Dominator, are the only two teams to have an average level lead greater than 1. Both are actually tied at 1.6 for a level lead. So basically they lead the game 1.6 levels ahead of their opponents. The highest, for comparison, the fourth highest team in my power rankings is Can't Counterpick Stupid. They're only with a level lead of 0.8, and the coastal average is actually 0, which I think probably makes sense in the averaging. So that's kind of, again, just another stat here. Paraloot, they got dominated by Tickle Me Tassadar, so that's definitely going to move them down. And then they actually lost a map to 10 armor, which, maybe this is just my perception of the team. I don't hold them super high. So actually, that Paraloot dropping a map to them, I think, is pretty substantial, which kind of explains why I've taken them off the number 1 seed. Can't Counterpick Stupid. They haven't played yet. They're playing Tickle Me Tassadar tonight as of recording, so you'll be able to find that out by the time this comes out. 10 armor, they took a map off Paraloot, so I moved them up 1. I don't know. I think it's significant. So, Plugwalk, I don't think they played this week. C West has an odd number of teams, so I think one team gets a bye every week. And I just moved them down because I think 10 armor, I think they're earning their keep by getting wins. So, that's that. Rainbow Strike Go and Piecemeal, I could swap these two pretty easily. Rainbow Strike Go lost to Lurk Patrol, but Lurk Patrol is a very good team, so it's kind of somewhat expected. So, I don't know if there's really much I can go off of to move them up or down here. Piecemeal, they dominated Frankfurters, but Frankfurters is a lower ranked team, so I think those are kind of fungible. You could do whatever you want with those. Annie Oak League, they dominated Pitch and Stitches, so I moved them up above Frankfurters, who got dominated by Piecemeal. And Pitch and Stitches just finding their way at the bottom. So that's it. Now, Juggerobb, there's a lot of former Division D teams here. So what do you think about this?
The only one that looks familiar to me is Frankfurters.
Yeah. Well, and Pigeon Stitches too.
Okay, but yeah, I think they were on Div D West last season, and I'm in Div D West this season, but I was East last season. So
got it.
But again, surprised Frankfurters is as low as they are. Not surprised by your ranking, just surprised that they're not able to pull out some more wins. They won our Div D East last season against my team actually. So I think that they can again probably beat anybody in the division and steal some and maybe make a push for the playoffs? ? I don't know what their schedule looks like in the future, so
I think it's kind of rough.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough. I think for a lot of these bottom teams in Division C East and C West, I think you're going to be. Frankfurters they're playing Rainbow Strike. Sorry, Team Rainbow Strike Go. So that's a team that they could probably get a win. But they do play Lurk Patrol tomorrow. I don't expect that one to be an upset for them. And they have 10 armor. So they kind of have a tough schedule, but if they can get upsets over those middle of the pack teams, they might actually find a couple extra map wins. But that's kind of where I think we might see them move up a little bit, but maybe 8th place cusp for playoffs, but it would be tough, I think. So, Ziltwood, what do you think about Division C West?
I don't really have much to argue with here. It seems all very well reasoned out and kind of what I would put things at. TMT, Lurk Patrol, who deserves to be where is a little bit interesting. But Lurk Patrol is one game behind Tickle Me Tassadar, so they do have chances to get, to win and or lose a match, to kind of shake that up a bit. But I don't have really a problem with those two fighting it out in the top.
Right.
Paraloot losing to TMT, I think, was what I expected to happen, but it was the one area where an upset probably could happen from any teams outside of those two.
Right.
And TMT versus Lurk Patrol is probably going to be a very interesting matchup and will be the deciding factor of who stays at the top.
Yeah.
CCS, like I said, I think they've shown some weakness throughout the season, but I think that they still are sitting in a pretty solid spot. But
I would expect these top 4 teams to stay top 4, just maybe in a different order somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, losing to TMT could put them in trouble of losing their position to teams like Tana Armor or Plug Walk coming up, though. So
yeah,
I do think that this is pretty well reasoned, and they all are where they are. And quickly picked up a victory over Pigeon Stitches, which was good, but dominating bottom of the division teams isn't how you're going to find playoff spots. So it helps, but you have to get the victories against the higher teams as well.
Right.
So we'll have to see how that works out. And Rainbow Strike Go, I think, played a pretty decent set into Lurk Patrol. I think that's another team that could find some upset victories near the end of the season here, and maybe establish themselves for sure a playoff spot. So I think right now the division is pretty close to where I might expect to see the playoffs to kind of work out as well.
Very nice. All right, Mr. Juggerobb, it is your time to shine. Why don't you break down Division D East for us with your power rankings, bud?
All right. This is a division that I hold close to my heart because it was the division I was in last season. So it was like my first foray into competitive hot. So at the top, I kept Too Calculated to Throw. They were actually a really strong underdog last season. So in the playoffs. So if you saw them in the playoffs, you sort of knew that they had the potential to be a top team. And I think they got a new tank player in X Havoc, but I could be mistaken. So I think that roster change, if it did occur, really helped them out. I moved House of Ches up 3 spots simply because their record. When you're the number 1 rank team in the standings as is, you got to be in at least the top 2 spots. The only reason why, well, not the only reason why, but one of the reasons why I gave 2C2 T the edge is because they're facing the Pancakes, which is the number 9 ranked team right now. So as of tonight, they're playing them. So we'll see how that shakes out. Maybe we see an upset, and my rankings are all for naught today. So at number 3, I have Team Rectum. They have the same score as Zueljin, the same point total as Zueljin, but they also have less games played. So I put them a little bit ahead just because they have only 7 matches played versus Zueljin, who has 9 matches played, and they both have 16 points total. So for that, it was just more of a total points versus games played decision. Church of Murky and Probius is I have them crossed out in my notes. Like I went back and forth between the 2 teams on who should be placed where. Probius has fewer games played, but Church of Murky's has a chance to propel themselves a little bit higher, I think, in the coming weeks with a slightly less difficult schedule coming up. So we'll see what happens, what shakes out from those games. As for Wood Tap That, again, another team. Oh, actually, and also, I don't know if I should do it now, but Probius versus Church of Murky is my week 7 matchup to watch, and I think that gets played on Sunday, the 25th. So that will sort of help set the middle of the pack for them. Would Tap That. just think that my notes aren't nearly as comprehensive as Ziltoid, so I just put that. I just kept them where they were as far as on the standings on Div compared to the rest of Div D East. For tryhards, I know they had a win against Zul'jin Distillery, but I think they need something a little bit more, another like marquee win to get them even further, to propel them higher in the standings. But I think as of right now, they're in the playoffs position. So if they just hold steady, then they're in control of their own destiny. So that's good. I actually think I skipped Zul'jin Distillery on rank number 4. But
a little bit.
Yeah, but based on the ranking report that DeWitt, I think I pronounced his name, he puts out on the weekly on the Nexus Gaming Series website, some teams have ranked them as far as 8 or as low as 8. So I think they just maybe a little bit more consistency. But I mean, again, you can't really say much when they have the second highest ranked total. But again, most matches played. So a lot of these teams, like, there's a lot of diversity as far as like number of games played versus points scored. So a lot of things will shuffle out even more as the season wraps up. FF and the Pancakes at number 9, they have a chance to prove something and maybe sneak into the playoffs because they're currently on the outside looking in against 2C, 2T, calculated to throw. Their schedule seems tough though for the rest of the season. So if they can upset, then they're in. But if everything, they're definitely the underdogs going in. But at the division, I feel like any team can really just have a good day, and any other team can have a bad day. Yeah, it's nothing is really set in stone. I think we kind of see that, especially when we get into Div D West, and then painfully average. They've only have the fewest games won and amongst the highest most played games. So those are my standings for Div D East.
Very nice. Yeah, this week I don't have too much to argue with on these stats for Division D East. I think it's probably appropriately placed based on, how these teams performed this week. I will say, Church of Murky. It looks like Church of Murky only has, where was it? Only has one game to go. Maybe 2. I'm looking at their schedule. It looks like they have one game against House of Shay.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Oh no, and then they have one coming up against Pro BS.
Yeah, they should have 3 more sets.
Oh yeah, and then they're playing tonight. Okay, so those are the 3 that they go.
Is it House of Shay?
It's House of Shay.
House of Shay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like
every show.
Everyone thinks it's House of Shay.
Sorry, that's what you get for. Nope. That's like me with everybody calling me Juggerobb. That's what you get when you have
Juggerobb. No, so anyways, yeah, I think that's definitely a team that they got to play some teams real close to their own stats. So we're going to see exactly kind of what they have to muster. But that's I agree here. So Ziltoid, what do you think?
It's generally pretty reasonable. I mean, obviously, the top 2 there are pretty well established, I think, to Calculated Throw and House of Shay have both been performing really well, pretty much not dropping any major sets, and that goes a long way to making sure that you stay at the top.
Yeah.
So I think has House of Shay lost a set? I'm actually not entirely certain. I was going to take a quick look.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that myself.
Yeah, they lost to Rectum. And that is kind of the one kind of team that definitely I think has pretty well established themselves into that 3rd spot. And they've still got some matches to play, but I think that they, the top 3 there are pretty much solid. Church of Murky, I think, might be up a little bit higher than they should be. They've got a pretty tough schedule coming up the next. All they've managed to beat so far is kind of the low-end teams. And each time they've gone up against the higher ranked teams, including things like XGD, which I pretty much consider the gatekeeper of the top 4, and other things like that, they haven't been able to pull out victories. They still have to play House of Shea, which is going to be a tough matchup for them too as well. So being able to establish a top 4 spot, I think, is starting to get more and more out of reach for Church of Murky. So they might be up a little bit higher than perhaps that they should be. But that's pretty much it. And like I said, it is just week to week. So we'll see these things stabilize out a bit more as we get to the last, as we get into the last couple weeks of regular season play.
Yeah, and I was just reevaluating real quick. Zul'Ji Distillery, yeah, definitely having 2 tough dominations to House of Shea and Tryhards. Definitely justifying going down to 4, but previous to this, they were definitely a top 1-2 team, 1-2-3 team. So see if they end up there, if they go higher. So
yeah, lots of parity in the lower divisions. I feel like compared to the heroic and A division, because it's just everybody knows what they need to be doing, but sometimes the execution can fail on them, and
right.
And that's the difference between a team fight going your way versus going the other team's way. So
very nice. All right, let's move on to Division D West, your home division. Juggerobb, break it down for us.
All right, my team is at the top. We just record. That's it. Disturbance. They had 2 dominations, and then they lost 2, and then they had 2 more dominations. So they had a huge jump, 6 points, and it's not just because we have a game coming up to that with them. So we're trying to, butter them up and try to have them put their guard down at all. But I think that they play teams really tight and really well. So it should be a good matchup against them. And actually, I think currently they hold the number 2 spot as well.
Yeah.
Number 3, Clouded Minds. I don't know if I don't think anybody's gonna. I shouldn't say that, but I don't think anybody's gonna argue with them being at the number 3 spot. I think they were a number 1 seeded team for most of the early season. But then they dropped a couple, and then I think they actually just lost the set to. Who did they lose to? Was it the Baddest Dudes?
Camino Sabernauts.
Oh, okay. So there, I put them up a little bit higher. I thought they were a little bit low in last week's ranking, so I brought them up 1. As for the Baddest Dudes, they were the Baddest Dudes were dominated by Disturbance. So that's a tough matchup for them, and so they dropped 1 because of that. For Camino Saber Darts at number 5, I agreed with Arthanau last week, but I wanted to sort of right the ship a little bit. I thought they were kind of underranked, but I thought what were they? What did you guys have them ranked last week at number 2? I thought number 2 was way too high, simply because they haven't played enough games. They've beaten some really good teams, and they played really well in those games. But you gotta do it a little bit more consistently. I think they have the fewest games played in our division right now, so it's kind of hard to rank them. But I think like right in the middle of the pack is a good spot for them for right now. But it would be no surprise if we see them take the any of the spots at this point. Going on to Luciodology. I improved their rank, or I had them rank at number 6. I think early on in the season, what you guys were saying last week about how they normally start off slow, but then they sort of pick up as the season goes on. I think that's true, and I also think that they had a lot of their subs playing for the beginning part of the season, so maybe some of those dominations turn into, at least they can steal a map and then we see those ranks improved. Last season they were the number 5 seed, so I think that we can see them start to potentially level out for the remainder of the season. Let me just take at their schedule real quickly. They have. It looks like Bloodbath and Beyond, Randy Newman, and
Clouded Minds.
they have Clouded Minds tomorrow or Monday. So I definitely think that they could beat any of those teams. Again, like I said before, like in these divisions, it's just like small little mistakes that if you happen to clean up on one particular game, you can definitely win, and then that snowballs. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring as the season wraps up. For number 7, I have Bloodbath and Beyond. Again, they were a team. They had 2 dominations in the middle of the season. They started off with 2 losses, 2 dominations, and then they're losing again, or they lost last week, I should say. And it's kind of an up and down play style, play style, I guess, not a style, but that's what's just happening to them. And I think they took a map from us, so this is by no means like meant to be anything negative towards them, but like they can beat the top teams, and they can also be dominated by other teams. So it just goes to show the parity in the league. And then I have Randy Newman at number 8. Both of these teams could both Bloodbath and Beyond and Randy Newman could surge as the season wraps up. I think they both had pretty tough schedules out of the gate, which kind of made it difficult for them to show potentially their true potential as like a higher ranking. But especially Randy Newman, their schedule coming up, I think they're playing some of the lower seeded teams. So as the weeks wrap up, we'll see where everybody shakes out in that. And then
real quick on Randy Newman here.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to give a shout out to them for the commitment to the brand here.
I know.
I just noticed it, but their captain is Randy Newman. They have another player who is, I assume, has changed their BNet and probably paid to do it. Randall Newman. And then they have another player that is Randy with an I, New N-U man. So just shout out to the commitment to the brand there. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it actually made scouting their team way more difficult than any other team.
I believe it, yeah.
I was just like, I don't know, like I can't just like write like all these different Randys, and then I just get confused as I'm trying to watch the game. So kudos to them for finding a way to sort of circumvent scouting. And
hey, you got to play to win or pay to win.
I exactly, and they and they beat us in a map as well. So I mean, I guess it paid off for them. Oh no, it's no problem. As for number 9, I have Yavapai County Swim Team and Chess and Swim Team. There we go. It was super long.
No, that's fine. You can mess that name up.
Another team that we actually dropped a map to. So in the first week of this season. So it goes to show, like, again, they can beat anybody. They just haven't been able to put it together in long strings. And then as for Backbone CS, they remain at number 10. I think the loss of Akash, I think they had last year, really hurt them, and they're still trying to find like their team identity going into this season.
And they might be the only team, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here. They might be the only team that doesn't have a single map win. I didn't see any when I was looking through there today, but obviously I could be wrong, but I did see that they have not a single map win. So that's rough. It's rough to be that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, moving on to like our rebuttal section here. I agree. I think Disturbance has some really, really late season wins here. Maybe they went a little too high here, but I think you definitely justified it. They're definitely currently ranked in that situation. Clouded Minds definitely losing a couple games here towards the end of the season. Looks like they got a couple, not dominations, but 1-2 losses. where you wouldn't expect it. So that's that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm okay with this. Ziltoid, what are you thinking about Division D West here?
That's a tight division. Lots of ways it can go.
Yeah.
With a lot of these teams, it's really kind of hard to call it. Disturbance moving up, and given the fact that the only really remaining team that I'd say that's a tough one to go up against is FMJ, means that being able to establish that number 2 or number 3 spot is pretty good for them.
Right.
Clattermans and Baddest Dudes definitely have some opportunities to get in there, but those aren't the teams I'm worried about. I'd actually say that Bloodbath and Beyond, given their schedule kind of upcoming, and given up the victories that they've had so far, are actually one of the bigger teams that can move pretty well. Camino Saber Darts definitely is a team that can move up if their performance is there. They've shown in the past that they can take maps off of top teams, so it's definitely a threat. And Randy Newman's another one there that's got an actually relatively easy schedule going out, as they've kind of moved everybody out of the way. So their ability, if they can kind of 2-0 the rest of their matches up here, you might see them kind of climb into the top 4 as well. So it's a tight one. Luciodology, I don't know about. They've got a tough schedule coming up. And the other ones, like I said, I think Bloodbath and Beyond is definitely a bit maybe underrated. They based off of their performances so far and the fact that they pretty much only have FMJ left to deal with, that I'd consider a big problem for them. They should actually shoot up pretty high up into the standings here. That's about it.
Very nice. I think that wraps up our power ranking, guys. Those are them, and we're sticking to them. But if you think we got something wrong, go ahead and let us know in the division chats. I am most certain that I got something wrong, so let me know. We will be happy to defend, or maybe not, our situation. All right, and before we move on into our next segment, we want to talk about the community member of the week. This week we have Skyybunnie, a 2-time winner of Community Member of the Week here, for her role in the Ladies of the Nexus segment that airs on Saturday evenings. I was able to catch some of that the other day. It's an exceptionally good program. I really liked watching it, supporting the women of NGS, and watching that. So shout out to Skyybunnie for starting that and for really driving forward with it. I don't know. Have any of you guys caught Ladies of the Nexus yet?
I actually did. I watched a little bit last night. And
nice.
I think the first time they ran it, I also watched it for about an hour. It's definitely fun. They take suggestions on which heroes to play. So if you have something wild, like yesterday, they were doing all Overwatch heroes, and I've seen them do all StarCraft heroes. So it's a good time.
Absolutely. So, and that's why I said shout out to Skyybunnie for kind of starting that and really organizing it, getting all of the women of NGS to participate. So shout out to her. So congratulations on your 2-time winner, Skyybunnie. Alrighty. Now let's move on into the game of the week. Juggerobb, of course, jumping the gun over in Division D East. I think it was Division D East, right?
Actually, no. Hold on.
What's your game of the week? I guess is the other way for me to ask.
It was Church of Murky versus Probius. Yeah, it was in Div D East.
D East. Okay, and that was airing.
Let's see. Hold on. That's actually coming up week 7 on the 25th, August 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern, but it's not currently casted, so you'll have to watch.
Maybe you will catch it, maybe you won't. I'm sure Arrow, if it's not live cast, Arrow will pick up the replay cast there, so very nice. I'll go next here. We got a Division C match. Not a whole lot of great Division C matches this week, but Bugin Squad, which is a 1 or a 2 seed depending on who you ask, versus Lubu, currently a 4 seed. It's scheduled for 8 p.m. Chicago time on Tuesday, the 20th. So if this is obviously going to be airing Wednesday, so go ahead and check out the replay cast or the VOD if you can. I believe it's currently scheduled, so should be currently scheduled for casting. So that's my game of the week. Ryokai, what's your game of the week?
All right, so I've got 2 this week. First up, I've got Lion Speed versus Gilly Shark. That's
nice.
on Wednesday the 21st. So that's a Div A matchup. That'll be a pretty good one. I couldn't really find any good one, at least that was on the calendar so far in advance for Heroic this week. But I will shamelessly plug again my own team. We're playing Sky 5 on Thursday. So that's currently what I would say is the number 2 and number 3 in Div A as well. So that'll be a good primer for our Gilly Shark final boss battle, I think. So
Perfect. Ziltoid, what is your game of the week, buddy?
I mean, I think this one's pretty obvious. Jailbait versus Minion Miners.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was this week. Okay, good. So you confirmed it.
Which is on Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Pacific. And that should be a really good matchup. And if you're looking for a secondary one on the same day, we have Unemployed Gaming versus Uncomfortably Numb.
So that'll be a 1 versus a 3, too. Or 3 as well.
Yep.
All right. Very nice, guys. All right, let's get into our, I think, fan favorite segment. This is the highlights of the week. Let's start it out with number 5, one that is near and dear to my heart, Cat Door. Show the clip.
I'd say turd come out. Yeah.
We gotta be ready to back fast.
God, they're making the call to core.
We're already on their core.
Oh, clear the minions. Just hit core, actually. Just hit core. Hit core.
I'm almost there.
We're not there. We're not there.
Hitting core.
They dropped the
Careful,
turret.
start backing up.
We have bunker. Oh, Brian's not here. I forgot.
Hit the core. Can we hit the core? 30%? No?
I'm so low. Hit the core. Hit the core.
You drop bunker on core?
Yeah, drop bunker.
Hit core. Hit core. Hit core. Hit core. Hit core.
Goodness.
Hell yeah, good job, guys. Never would I do that.
Holy shit. And coming up at number 4, it's Where Did Everyone Go? Show the clip.
He can give his team an advantage here. 2 turrets on both sides. There's a huge Imperious spike with the power slide. What a fantastic engage, and it's going to secure the first kill on the kill toss. Now Alazar goes down. Kook's running away. That was one of the best engages I've ever seen.
And coming in at number 3, we have Urel Peels. Show the clip.
Stunning him.
Careful VP, careful VP, careful VP.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
I'm VP'd. I might be able to kill Gross here.
Trying to help you.
I'm on Zeratul, I'm on Zeratul.
Moshing.
Nice. That's a 4-man, get all the kills. Greyman first.
I got
Gross.
I got hammer.
You kill him if you get one more auto. Nice.
He's dead.
I mean, slaying his death up is fine.
I still have hammer.
Nice.
Alright, cool.
Cap bottom.
Junkrat
Bottom. Mid. Junkrat bottom.
And coming in at number 2, it's 39 is not 40. Which I guess makes sense, but whatever. Show the clip.
Completely. Maybe a little bit of miscommunication there. Maybe Jaina was expecting more much, but I'm not sure. Here comes to help. Here Counter-Strike hits 4 people, and that is horrible for the members of Reach and Blue. They get blown up to pieces. 3 members dead immediately.
And coming in at your number 1 highlight of the week, it is Sanct Eats Everything. Show the clip.
Feigned death from Rexar probably needed. Ulysses not wanting to be any part of that CC combo. No heroics except the cocoon as of yet. There's the feigned death as a light bomb coming out, stunning 3. There's the crushing jaws behind it, but it's a Diablo with his lightning breath out, unstoppable, doesn't fall. Ziltoid leaping all around, 200 health surviving. It's Sonya next in trouble, and she will fall. A quad kill for logical decision. Just the Vala remains stable.
All right, that's the clips we got this week. Obviously, you got a little bit of a personal point of view from the Nexus Cats with that number 5 clip. They decided to make a backdoor call, and I was literally shaking in my boots. Literally after the game, I just walked out that door and just like, that's it. I'm done. Very stressful, but obviously we pulled off the win there. So shout out to us, but definitely a very stressful and very funny highlight for you guys to see. what goes through my brain when we're playing. I'm sure I swore in there too, so hopefully that gets bleeped. Real Kai, what did you think this week of the highlights?
I think they were all pretty good. Of course, Sanct, super powerful at number 1 there. I like the 39 is not 40 as well. It's kind of up to you on who you give the credit there, whether it's the team holding them off, not letting them get the 39, or the other team dropping the ball and not able to just find the one they needed. But I thought that was a pretty cool turnaround there on the Shrine. So
very good. Juggerobb, what about you? Which highlight did you like this week?
I'm gonna go with number 2. 39 is not 40 as well. That's a real heartbreaker right there. I mean, I don't know who won the match ultimately because it looked like it was an early dominator, but man, when you get 39 and you can't get that last one, that just kills your confidence going forward.
Yeah, I agree there. Ziltoid, what about you? What did you think was a good highlight this week?
They were all pretty good. I liked the Keanu Reeves fight over the Infernal Shrines against CTV.
Yeah. Yep. Alrighty, guys, that's the highlights. Again, I don't think I've made a reminder, but if you're watching this and you have some highlights from your own matches, go ahead and drop them in the #highlights Discord channel. We obviously take a look at them. We pick the 5 that we like the most from the week. We put them in, and we come up with funny meme names for them. So that's what we do. So go ahead and drop some highlights. Before we move on to our last segment of Edge questions, I do want to plug Valkymer's latest late night face check. Came out as of recording a couple days ago. It's with the captain of the baddest dudes over in D West, I believe, Cactus Ham. Cactus Ham, of course, dressing up in his Sunday best with a tie and everything, keeping it very professional. It was a very, very good late night face check. So go ahead and check it out. Juggerobb, have you been keeping up with the late night? Have you been keeping up with the late night face checks?
I have actually. Yeah, I've been trying to watch as many as I can. I don't think I've caught Cactus Hams yet, but I'm gonna watch it to see if he divulges any secrets, little tips, or anything that I can, get in preparation for our match against them.
There you go. Hey, that's the risk of going on TV, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, guys, let us move into the Edge questions segment. I'm going to start us out. We had some great questions this week, actually. So if I don't ask it, or we don't ask it, I do want to give a quick shout out to Monkas, Valkymer, of course, B-Train asking some good questions too, but we answered that prior to recording. That was about Reign of Destruction. So go ahead and check that out in the Edge Questions channel. And of course, if you have Edge questions, go ahead and drop them in there, and we will do our best to answer them on the air with our panelists. But let's start with the community question, which of course is the one that DeWitt asked the captains this week. The question is, which hero is your favorite to see in NGS matches? So, Juggerobb, why don't you tell us what you think your favorite hero is to watch in NGS matches?
It's kind of serendipitous because I voted for the Butcher, and then lo and behold, we played Randy Newman on Thursday, and they pulled out a Butcher combo that absolutely destroyed us, but also destroyed me in particular as the Gul'dan, who just couldn't get away from their team. So yeah, I take back my answer, and I'll go with Murky now. Yeah.
Very nice. Real Kai, what about you? What do you think is your favorite hero to see in NGS matches?
I'm going to say Zeratul, just because I think when you see a good Zeratul playing, it's just beautiful. I just love watching it every time. So
perfect. What about you, Ziltoid? What do you think?
I like Samara.
Oh, that's a good pick. I do like watching Derivative in chat go by BMed. BMed plays a really good Samara, I think. I always like, I don't know any frame of reference for it, but I always like watching that, so I think that's a good answer. But as far as what the community thinks, because who cares what I have to say, the favorite hero, and I kind of talked about this in the break here, Maeve. Maeve, I don't know how to say it. Number 1 with 4 votes. So I thought that was shocking. I was like, I don't want to see more Maeve. I see her enough. That's why we ban her. But coming in next is Murky with 3 votes, Tyrael with 2, and Morales with 2. I'm guessing the Morales vote is really a Juice Pirates kind of vote, proxy vote for Juice Pirates. And then TLV also had 2 votes. So I thought it was very interesting. So keep on answering those questions in DeWitt's survey. It's obviously something we like to talk about here. So go ahead and do that. Let us move on into Monka's question this week. He asked, what are your favorite niche map / niche hero picks? And he gave the example of like Artanis on Battlefield of Eternity. It's heroes that don't usually get picked except like on that particular map. I guess another one would be like Alex on IS or Infernal Shrines. Typically, I don't know if that's still a thing, but I don't know. Ryokai, tell me, what is your favorite niche map / hero pick?
Well, I could say probably like all of the Sylvanas ones where she's a top tier pick, just because.
And what would those be, just in case I want to get an edge on my competition?
Yeah, sure. I think Battlefield of Eternity. Altaric Pass is up there. Towers of Doom. Hanamura and Volskaya. Those are probably.
And these are all the maps, ones. Man.
It's actually
there's like 5 or so that she's okay on. Like she's still good, but anyway.
I like this OP hero because she's OP, and I like it on every map because it's really good on every map.
All right.
That's Ryokai's answer.
Giving away all my secrets here. I will say my actual answer is going to be the Lost Vikings actually on Altaric Pass.
I've faced that before. It's not fun.
A big map. Lots of people don't know the macro on it. That throws a wrench into all the macro. But just having the bribe cooldown reduction and the global soaking during objectives and everything else, I think is super unique and super fun. Not many teams that I've seen really coordinate it and make it a staple strategy that they try and pull off. But eventually somebody will, and I'm going to root for that team. So there you go.
Very nice. Siltoid, what do you think? What's your favorite niche map, niche hero pick?
I don't know. I enjoyed playing Samuro on Braxis.
So double Samuro answer here for you.
That was fun. I mean, I think he does a lot for the map. He roams well. He camps well. He's got good ability to assassinate heroes that he can get onto. So, like, you know, as long as you have a good CC in both lanes, he can really get in there and snipe people out. And if he's not doing that, he can just grab camps. It's a good hero.
Seems to be pretty good. Juggerobb, what about you? Favorite niche map / hero pick? If you got one.
I'm going to go with Murky. I think he's good in any map or any comp, but especially on larger maps like Cursed Hollow and Garden of Terror, there's a lot of bushes to put aggressive eggs, and you can get a lot of added push value because of the, with the objectives.
So kind of like a similar TLV type answer.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get on to the next Edge question. This one also came from Monkas. Which hero is currently being the most overvalued in each of the divisions, and which is being the most undervalued? So why don't we just stick to the divisions that we talked about? Juggerobb, do you got an answer for that one, or you want me to go to someone else first?
Well, based on the stats that we got over by Blank this week, I'm going to say overvalued is Joanna. She currently has 37 games played, 15 bans, and she has a win rate of 37.8. So maybe it's a thing where people in Div D West don't know how to play her, but if she only has a 37.8 win percent, then that's tough. That's overvalued, I think.
I think that's right. What about Ryokai? What do you think here?
All right. Well, shameless plugging my own giant wall of text that I post in Heroic Division there. But I say, are we doing overperforming or like underrated and overrated, or just one?
Do both if you got them.
Okay, sure. Heroic, absolutely the number one, like most overrated. I'm begging you to stop this. Is Anubarak, who's the number one most banned hero in Heroic with 37 bans, and he has a 0% win rate over 6 games. So what are you guys doing? Stop banning this guy. You're wasting him.
It's probably the most overrated in Division C too. Both C East is running a 33% win rate with him and a 67% pick rate, and similar stats for C West. So piggyback on the Anubrak answer here.
As far as like heroes doing really well in heroic, let's see. If I had to choose one, Jaina or ETC are both pretty up there. They're hovering around almost 80% win rate over like 18 to 25 games or so. So I think both of those are pretty solid answers there. Reasonably popular, but definitely like they're doing really well. So pick them even more than you want every game.
Sounds
as
good.
for Div A, go ahead.
I was just going to say, go ahead. You could do Division A.
Okay. Division A, I will sort of shamelessly plug myself and my own team. I think people are undervaluing Lucio, that we have him up at like a 70% win rate. And shoutouts to my team on Matt. Who do you think? He is carrying that win rate almost entirely on his own. So shoutouts to him. Same with Tyrael. He's hovering at a 78% win rate over 14 games or so. So he's doing pretty solid there. As for underperforming, Hanzo's not doing too hot. He's at a 34% win rate in 23 games. So, not been finding the success with Hanzo. Maev also down there at 33% over, 18 games as well. So, both of those seem to be kind of struggling. So, those are my top picks for those two.
I am going to jump in here real quick just because the underrated, I think, here is probably Zeratul in Division C. Looking at in Division C West, they really undervalue him at 25.3% popularity, but he's got a 71% win rate, and a similar win rate in Division C East. So just an underrated or underutilized maybe would be the right way to put it in Division C. So I just want to jump in there and finish out my answer. So Ziltoid, what about you? What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't put a lot of the statistics in front of me, but I might steal someone else's views on it.
Oh, I shamelessly stole it.
To give a good answer.
Yeah.
If I can find them here. Just give me a second.
Yeah, I shamelessly stole mine from Dominator Stats. So shout out to you guys.
So it kind of goes back and forth in Division B, from west side to east side, but someone that's been overperforming surprisingly is Kel'Thas. He's got like a 70+% win rate. Junkrat has also done pretty good in both divisions overall, and I think that's good. Like I think both those heroes, Kel'Thas, like, as you get higher up, probably should fall back. But at the same time, yeah. The Junkrat, though, I think is probably the one that's been underpicked and underrated and has been performing up to that, and is probably my favorite one there. As far as like underperforming, now I don't know if there's a whole lot of statistics to back this up, but has been feeling like it to me just in play and everything else. Despite his growth in popularity, and it's Greymane. I feel like teams have been prioritizing him significantly more frequently since the changes, but I don't know if the skill in B in particular has matched it very well, or that they're still not quite understanding where the buffs were, and kind of how they affect things, and are still kind of getting out drafted or not finding good ways to get value, or not finding the right builds to make it work. So I think the one he's been overvalued, I think, quite a bit. That and Alarak, I think, are my two big ones that I think are overplayed but aren't getting the results that you're wanting from that hero.
All right. Well, I think that's it for Edge questions this week, guys. Keep them coming again for next week. We'll go ahead and answer some more. That's it. We did it. We reached the end of the show. Golf clap, golf clap. All right, guys. Thank you again. Quick shout out to our research analysts, Key, Ryokai, of course, Himibo, Marshall, Dominator, and Blank. Obviously, you guys are doing an incredible job, especially this week. We got a lot of stats. We got them very early, and we were able to kind of digest them a little bit and obviously make them help with our power rankings and such. I also want to do a quick shout out to the new Nexus Edge editor. I think Sniper. I don't know how to pronounce it. I apologize, buddy. But Sniper is going to help Arthanal get the shows edited and make them look real spiffy for you. So I'm hoping this week might be the return of the blooper section. Fast forward a little bit, we'll see, maybe. But Sniper, thank you again for helping us out, and we look forward to your work. And of course, I want to thank our panelists. Thank you guys, and especially thank you, Juggerobb, for spending your Sunday evening with us. Afternoon, evening. I've called it both today, so the only thing I haven't called is morning. But yeah, thank you. Where can the people reach you on Twitter, Twitch, whatever, Juggerobb?
I don't. I have it. No, just here on Discord. Find me in the
Discord?
Captain's Lounge. Yeah.
Perfect. Ziltzoid, what about you? Where can the people reach you?
All the usual places: Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, LD Ziltoid.
Perfect. Ryokai, what about you, buddy?
Yep, same thing. I'm Ryokai everywhere. I'm on Twitch. I'm on Twitter.
YouTube?
On YouTube. Yep. So.
Do you have more videos going up?
I took a break from them. I'll probably release another batch at some point soon.
I think I know I have that little subscribe button hit. I'm ready. I need those tips, man. I'm of course Turd Herder. You can find me Turd Herder Hots on Twitter, Turd_Herder on Twitch. I haven't been doing a whole lot on there, but I'm hoping to get back into it. Maybe some casting still. I'm still hoping I can do some. But that's it, guys. This is Turd Herder here saying adios, amigos. Remember to always stay safe in the Nexus and take your hots to the edge. We're done. We did it. So
We done it.